Hello everyone and welcome to Poking Around Phoenixville. I'm Lou Beccaria, your host. Thanks for tuning in and being with us today. As you know, over the years we've presented an array of very interesting people who are our fellow Phoenixville neighbors. That's the joy of poking around. We can always find people with interesting backgrounds and personalities right here in our own backyards. Well, today I've got another Phoenixville gem to present to you. She's a lady who's lived here most of her life, and she's as interesting as they come. She's raised her children here, started a program to help parents who have lost a child to death, been active in ecumenical and diversity issues, written award-winning poetry, and generally been a great promoter of Phoenixville for over 60 years. If you haven't already guessed yet, I'm speaking of none other than Emma Valenteen, a lady well known to many in our community. Emma, welcome to Poking Around Phoenixville. Glad to have you here.
Thank you, Lou. It's nice of you to ask me.
Tell us a little bit about your background first, get to know you a little bit better. Well, you weren't born here, right? But
No, I was born in Philadelphia.
okay.
And I think they gave me a little bit of a transfusion about the mummer strut because I do it.
Uh-huh.
And then we moved to Royersford, and I lived there for 10 years, and then I moved to Phoenixville, and I've been here ever since.
Okay.
So I landed about in 48.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I come from Philadelphia too. What section of Philadelphia did you come
South,
from?
26th and Bancroft.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was the other end. So did you go to high school here?
Yeah, I graduated from Phoenixville High School with a class of 51.
Okay.
There's a lot of us out there that do community work.
Yeah. How did you get interested in the community work, Emma?
I think I
Did you
just sort
start
of,
in high school, or was it much later in your career?
well, yeah, I don't know, I sort of like creeped up on me, and I didn't even realize I was involved. The next thing you know, I'm busy doing a lot of things for a lot of people. Yeah.
What did you do immediately after high school?
I got married.
Okay, so you got married early.
I got married early.
And did you work, or were you a homemaker all the time?
No, I worked. I worked at Detcher Flag Company selling stars on the American flags.
How about
Yeah,
that?
I did that.
Did you like that? Was that interesting?
It was different. Yeah, it was different. I met a lot of different kind of women. That was my first exposure to factory women, and it makes a difference. Yeah.
Well, going back to your community spirit, you're known around town as a lady with bubbling community spirit. What gives you that bubbly community spirit, and what kinds of things have you been involved in over the years to give you that reputation?
Well, I guess I more or less followed the kids. What they got involved in, I got involved in. My daughter was involved in music, so of course I was helping the band and do what I could do. And my son was a very good athlete, and I was the mother that sat in the bleachers that had the cough drops and the Band-Aids and the safety pins. That's so important. And one of the boys reminded me of that, and that's why I'm telling you that. He always said he felt better when I was in the bleachers because he knew I had what he needed. Kleenex, whatever it was. Yeah.
A sense of security you
He
gave.
just shared that with me a few months ago, and I thought that was kind of funny. Yeah, I like that.
Great. One of the things that you're known for mostly is the group called Compassionate Friends. Could you tell us about that? It's a national organization, is that correct?
Yeah. Actually, it's throughout the world. You know. Yeah.
Okay.
And in December is when we really know that we're united, because we light a candle in Vienna, and it goes throughout the world. And as the time changes at 7 o'clock, you light the candles for your particular children. So we're all kind of together. So we have 24 hours of lighted. I can't even get that out. Anyway, then we light the candles throughout the world, and it works really neat.
Is there a reason why it starts in Vienna?
I don't know.
No,
I don't know.
just
That came from national, so I really don't know. We just,
Yeah. How did this worldwide organization get started, Emma?
Actually, it got started in England.
Okay.
There were two families that were losing children at the same time. And there was a priest there named Father Stevens. And he realized that them talking to each other, they were support for each other. And from that, it sprung up, and then it just like spread like fire. There was a couple from Florida that happened to be there at a meeting, and they brought it to the United States, and then it took off. And there isn't a state in the country that doesn't have a Compassionate Friends.
Wow.
And some has more than others, of course.
Do you know how many chapters there are throughout the world? roughly?
No, not off the top of my head, no.
But there's
I had that
probably
home
hundreds.
because they sent us a chart every year so that if someone would call me, if they were going to, say, another state and they wanted to find a place, I can guide them where to go to find it if they want support in their travels.
Yeah.
So that works pretty good.
How did you get involved with this organization?
Well, I got involved being a friend. I always get involved by being a friend. My Mary Ann had died in March, and I was covering my own grief in my own kind of way, which happens to be talking into a tape recorder, because something told me I had to get my emotions out.
Is that typical, Emma, of people who lose children, that everybody's kind of got to do it their own way?
True.
And what
True.
are some of the ways now? You've been exposed to
And
this for quite a way.
even husband and wives don't do it the same way. But you have to let that person work in their own pattern.
Okay.
Some people feel they have to talk about the child all the time. Some people can't talk about the child at all. But that's all right, because it's just a temporary thing. And when you have all these emotions within you, you have to let them flow, your own way. So.
What is the mission then of Compassionate Friends? What does it do for parents that no other organization can do?
Well, because you have that camaraderie. You know that they walked in your shoes. They know how you feel. Your hurts have been their hurts. And they understand that. We understand each other. And the more you've been into it, you see the pattern. You watch the people. I watch the people come in brokenhearted, and within a few years, they handle it. I'm saying they get over it. You never get over it. You live with it, but you learn to deal with it.
Now, to be a leader of a program like this, do you go through a certain amount of training in addition to what your experience is, obviously?
Well, we have conferences every year. And when you go to the conference, there's all types of different things that you can dwell on. There's leadership, there's how to handle suicides, how to handle car accidents, all those different types of things. And so you sit in on one of them. So since I've been in this since 1991, I have been to a lot of conferences, and I've sat in on various meetings so that I can get a feel for how that person feels in comparison to how I feel. I always had trouble because I didn't know where I belonged, because I didn't have a long-term illness. From the day my daughter came home from school till I buried her was 30 days. Now, is that a short time, or is that a long time, or what do you call that? It's not really short, because some people die instantly in a car accident and they never see the child. So when they used to put it in those categories, I never was sure if I was sitting in the right room. And I still go through that when I go to conferences, should I be here or should I be in there, or, it makes a difference.
That'll be a tremendous shock to your system, to your family, to such a short time.
Because, to be honest with you, I've always brought my children up in the church. I wouldn't necessarily call myself a religious woman, but I'm there every morning in my church, and my children were brought up the same way. So my daughter, when she died, she had perfect attendance in Sunday school. She had all the little medals that they wear in the whole 9 yards. And she took this to heart. And she did things for people. She was always reaching out to someone else to help them out. So when she first took sick, I was walking through that hospital very arrogant, because this kid does your work every day of her life. No way would you take her. I just knew there's no way she would die. Because why? When she used to stop to see old people every day and spark their life. And there was a child one time that everybody had ignored, because the teacher told her what a wonderful kid she was and how wonderful her parents were. So the other kids rejected her. So Mary Ann befriended her. She was the kind that would seek people out like that, So, like I said, I thought I had that pretty well made in the shade. So.
When you go through a traumatic experience like this, of losing a child, are there stages of grief that you go through? They say, for example, when people are told they have cancer, they go through different stages of dealing with it. Is it the same with this?
Yeah. There's actually a chart that I have that I haven't used for quite a few years, and I'm planning on renewing again. It's got slide presentation and all. And it shows you the different stages, the denial, the shock, the so on that you go through. And then it'll hit you maybe 5 years later, it'll show you that it'll come back and it'll reoccur, you know. But I'd have to show you this chart to really understand, you know, because sometime you might stay away from a compassionate friend meeting for maybe 10 years, and all of a sudden something will jar you, and you need that support of the other people.
Yeah.
And I find them coming back even within my own chapter. Yeah.
For the benefit of our viewers who may not understand the concept of a support group, could you tell us about that? How does it differ from, say, counseling, or is it counseling, or is support different than going to a counselor, for example, to deal with the grief?
Yeah, I think it does, because when you're in this group, you're in a group of all different people that are in different stages. And as they talk and talk about their burden, you know, we offer that when you come. If you got a heavy heart about something special, then you can express it. And then I could be sitting there listening to you, and then it triggers me to think differently. Where one-on-one, you're not getting that extra feelings of someone else.
Okay.
You know, so we sort of like help each other. You know, it's a bond that we have to reach out to each other.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, this conversation may spur some people on to maybe want to join your support group.
Right.
How can they go about doing that, Emma?
All they have to do is come to the Presbyterian Church the second Thursday of the month. That's where we meet at 7:30 and on a Thursday night, the second Thursday of the month. Now, a lot of people can't get themselves to go to the meetings. They can't walk into that room. So those people will call me, and I send them a newsletter. I put a newsletter out every other month, and some people live for that newsletter.
Okay.
And it's funny because some people who don't come to meetings will share that newsletter with people that are going through the same thing too, you know.
What is that number that they can call you if they would like that newsletter? And
Oh, at 610-933-2346.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
And I have an answering machine. I've been known to put a lot of miles on myself in the day's time, so I'm not always home. But I will get back to you. I do promise
Because you're out there
that.
doing community work all the time.
Yeah, busy. Yeah.
Well, speaking about community work, let's kind of move on to another aspect of your community life, and that is, I know, because you and I serve on the same committee, the Social Concerns Committee of the local ministers group. Could you tell us about that, how you got involved in it, and why it's so important to you to be involved?
Well, I always, and my children will verify this, I always taught them to respect people, regardless of the color of their skin or what their religions are. You know, you treat a person the way they treat you. And my daughter one time ran into a woman that was a bee's nest, and she said that I didn't raise her right, that's not always true. And I hear that from time to time. She laughs about that one. But that's what I try to do. So I try to live an example of what I want my kids to do. So I always showed everyone the respect, because I figure what you give out, you get back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long have you been involved with the Social Concerns Committee, Emma?
I think it was 1990, I think it was. My pastor put me up to this, so to speak.
It's all his fault, right?
Yeah, all his fault. He wanted somebody to be on this board. And my church at the time was kind of lily white, and he knew that I could go both ways. And I think that's why he asked me to do it.
Okay.
And I enjoyed it. I met some very nice people in my day through that. Yeah.
It wouldn't be a finer person to be an ambassador for something like that than you. So
Oh, well, thank
it was
you.
a perfect choice on his part. We need to take a break right now for a commercial, so stay with us. We have more. When we come back, we're going to hear more from Emma Valenteen about the wonderful work she does in the community, and also we're going to hear her poetry. So you're going to hear this. Stay with us. Hi, welcome back to Poking Around Phoenixville. I'm Lou Beccaria, your host, and we have the pleasure today of meeting with Emma Valenteen about her wonderful community work, and also we're finding out that she's a poet. So a little bit later on in the show, we're going to hear some of her poetry. Emma, aside from Compassionate Friends, which we spoke about in the first half, you've also been involved in some other community things. Pat Hagerman, our producer, informed me that back during the time of the Vietnam War, you were very active with helping the children of the boat people coming over here from Vietnam. Could you tell us about that, how you got started and why you did it?
Yeah. Well, I'm very active in my religion, like I said, and I was on the synodical board of the Lutheran Church Women, and we had a meeting in Philadelphia, and the pastor at the particular church we were in was a local fellow named Ralph Moore, and he was telling me they had taken in this boat people, and they gave them this house, and they gave them the food, and they did so much for them, but little things fell through the cracks like it always does. Here the kids were only coming to school like once a week, and he couldn't understand why. And here they didn't have any coats. When they gave them stuff, they only gave them one coat, and it was like 4 kids. So they all had to take turns. And so at that point, I knew what kind of people that I was familiar with. So the first thing I did was, that happened on a Saturday. So on Sunday when I went to church, I went into every Sunday school class. And I said, oh, you kids, and tell your parents, those coats you have in the closet, you don't like the buttons, you don't like the zipper, you can't wear that ugly color. Well, somebody can wear those ugly coats that you call. So bring them to church, and I'm going to take them down to Philly. Well, then, being the type of person I am, when I'm at work, I'm telling my coworkers, hey, you got any coats in that closet that kid can't stand? And so they brought them. So I ended up with about 35 coats that I took down.
Wow.
Then the following Tuesday, I got down there with these coats. So that's how I happened to reach out in that particular time.
That's
and
amazing.
the church also sent me out to Minnesota, and I went out there and I met Vietnamese people out there, and that was interesting too. I actually lived with them, and I have to tell you the story that I thought was so adorable. This lady had a trash can in the middle of her kitchen table, and that's where she kept her cookies.
Really?
Nobody bothered telling her that was a trash can. She was so thrilled that she could hit that button and offer me cookies out of the trash can.
Jeez.
But I mean, they did a lot for those people out there. But that was just an oversight that somebody messed up. And who am I to tell her? You know, I didn't tell her either. You know.
So it seems like you're always there to kind of plug up the holes, so to speak.
Yeah,
and to do things that aren't being addressed by other people or other organizations.
Yeah, that's what I kind of feel anyway. I'm active in professional business women. And on that note, we're all not well off, but we're not, none of us are hurting. So I got a little a car that looks like a mail truck. And I passed it around the room, and everybody threw their change in it. And the change went down to the senior citizens. Now we treat them to a wash and set every week out of this money that we give down there. They have a little drawing down there, and the men can get the haircuts too, of course, you know, whoever puts their name in a hat. And I kind of
so it's a
did
chance
that.
kind of a thing. Somebody can win it.
Yeah.
I see.
And anybody's eligible who signs up.
What a
And
unique
I'm
idea.
kind of happy that I did that, you know, because I know that people down there have said a couple times how happy they were that I thought of that. Yeah.
All the community work that you do, Emma, does it flow pretty basically from your personality, or is it related to the fact that you're very active in your religion?
I think it's from my parents. You know, they were givers in their own kind of way. They were never wealthy people, you know what I mean? And my mother never worked. She didn't believe it, and I used to get lectures all the time over that. But anyway, my house was an open house. I never came home from school that there wasn't somebody sitting in there, you know. And I guess it just came to me the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, before we run out of time, I want to delve into your poetry.
Yeah.
I've known you for a while, a couple of years, and I was actually surprised to learn that you were a poet. And then when I found out that you were an award-winning poet,
yeah.
you know, we definitely had to have you on the show. So.
That's like looking inside me, because that's something I don't normally share with a lot of people. Some people know it, you know.
We feel privileged that you're
yeah,
willing
so
to bring
I
us on the show
decided
here.
to, yeah, and last night I indulged it to my children, and my children weren't even aware of some of the awards that I had received.
No kidding.
Yeah, it was my own
very
thing,
humble about
you
that.
know, so. Anyway, I'm fortunate enough to have 2 poems in the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
No kidding.
And I would like to share them,
Sure.
if you don't mind. Okay, the one is Our Precious Time. My mother, a precious woman, requires constant care. It hurts inside, so little time with her to share. Such a good example for me when I became a wife. A well-earned thank you for all the good things in my life. I'll care for her with love, as she did for me. Now that I'm the mother, she's childlike, you see. Gingerly, I bathe and wash her hair. If she would just show recognition, all I get is a stare. A promise kept, he would come for us all. I love her faithfully and wait for death to call. Reaching up, I brush the tears from my eyes. Lord, just give me the strength when it's time for goodbye.
That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. How did you get involved in writing poetry, Emma?
I don't really know how this is just a God-given talent that I got.
I mean, some people start when they're young people and
Well,
in high school and they
I
carry
did
it
in
through.
high school.
You did?
I did the activity section of the yearbook, and that I did in poetry. The whole thing was done in poetry from beginning to end. And then there was a poem on the end of the yearbook that I did, making fun of the school, in my own kind of way, Never signed it, and there's people in my class that never knew that I ever wrote that because I never took credit for it, So I think my mom said, don't toot your own horn, somebody else will toot it for you. And I think that's why I haven't done as much as, and really tell people about it anyway. Yeah, the other one is called Take Time. While sitting on the porch, watching the clouds in the sky, I'm listening to the bees and chirping of the birds as they pass me by. Nothing changes in their world. They just keep going at the same pace. If only us humans could learn their pattern, we could trace. We're always in a hurry, racing the clock to be on time. Never taking a moment, we enjoy ourselves. We're the busy kind. Why not sit a moment and talk a little to the one you love? Enjoy your life, be happy before you're called by the God above.
That was equally as beautiful and very nice. Tell us a little bit about the context of those two poems.
Well,
why did you write those specific words?
Now, I have to tell you, this one about the mother, this was a girl that I was working with, and this is her feelings. This is how she felt. Every day she would come in and say, oh, she just stares at me, if only we,
But she had a sick mother.
She had a sick mother that was dying.
Okay.
And she would share her feelings with me each day. And I'm pretty good at doing that for people. Actually, there was, I didn't bring it along today, there was a girl who went through a divorce. And she was talking about how she looks into her kids' faces and she sees his face, and how she wants to start a new life for herself and she just can't do it. She's stuck with this all the time. And I wrote it for her. And she said, I'm mailing it to him to let him know how I feel. And it was funny. Now, years later, I just found that the other day. I don't keep these things in order. Anyway, I ran into it, and I shared it with someone, and she said, do you really feel like that? She thought me, as a widow, that's how I was feeling.
Yeah.
That I couldn't start a new life, and that. So it was kind of funny how it all came around. But that, again, was written for somebody, A lot of my poems, as I was working, was all dedicated for retirement, constantly retirement, because I was losing the people around me, because they were all much older than me when I worked. I worked at Container for 47 years.
Oh,
I give them that much time. And they didn't want kids at Container, but I knew the personnel girl, and she hired me. And she said, keep your nose clean, because they don't want no kids in here. They wanted women like 5 or 6 years older than me, and I was only 19 at the time, and this is what they were looking for. And so when I retired after 47 years, she said to me, you took me serious. We laughed about it, that I stayed there all those years, yeah.
What does writing poetry, Emma, give you that you don't get in any other aspect of your life?
I think my inner me comes out, I think I really feel that way. I have compassion for people. When they hurt, I hurt too. I kind of do that kind of thing. But I can't get funny. I mean, I've been known to tell a joke and cut up and stuff like that. But when I put that pen in my hand, zoop, it all goes away. I attended writers' conferences for a couple of years, trying to improve that skill, and it just won't come off. I only had one that was kind of funny, and I didn't bring a copy of it, but maybe I can recite what I know about it.
Sure.
Now I think it's going to be okay for TV. It's kind of...
This is a family show now, Emma.
Yeah, okay. Don't look at me. I'm not myself. This midlife crisis makes me feel like somebody else. The hair turning gray was the first sign, and then my glasses became the bifocal kind. Now I handled the wrinkles with some amount of ease. They spread all over They're even on my knees. My spider vein legs look like a road map. And in my underpants, my boobies get trapped. Every day I look into the mirror at this somebody else. Well, maybe tomorrow I'll see my old self.
That's wonderful. That's
Yeah,
great.
most people like that one. Yeah, because they can relate to it, you know. So anyway, that was that.
Do you plan to continue writing your poetry?
Well, it's funny because now that I was going to do this, I had a look, and it looks like about every 10 years I come up with an Einstein theory or something.
Mm-hmm.
But some of my work I have given to people in town, you know, like Don Cobbage, Dick Kunch, Marge Moore, people like that. And
So they're privileged to have a personal poem from you.
I guess you would say that.
Wow.
Yeah, okay. So then the funny part of it was the word got out, and they were having a testimonial for Father Wills. And I actually got a phone call asking me if I would write a poem for this man. And I did. I did. So that was the first notoriety, so to speak, in Phoenixville. Because like I said, even my children don't know about this Congress business that I'm in, in Washington. And they knew about the trophy because they flew to California to get that one. So they did know that was.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about the trophy.
Yeah, I had entered this World of Poetry contest back in 1988. And they
Hold
flew
it up
me.
so our camera can see it. There you go.
They flew me to California, and they paid for my stay. And I was fortunate enough to meet Red Skelton.
Really?
Yeah, and he was very, very nice. He was the entertainer for us for that weekend. And he would say, want to eat breakfast with me? Whoever was standing behind him. And he would sit down at breakfast with them.
So you got the chance to eat breakfast with
No, I was not in the right place at the right time. I watched all this.
them? Okay.
Yeah, sort of like what I do. I'm always in the right place at the wrong time, but.
Which of the two poems that are in the Library of Congress, Emma, that you did?
Take Time
Take
and
Time.
Oh Precious One.
Okay, the two that you read.
Now, the other one, The Missing Graduate, that is known throughout the world because that goes through Compassionate Friends. Any person from Compassionate Friends can use this in their newspaper, and it's quite all right.
Okay.
And so now I've been getting phone calls on this throughout the states, asking me if they could use it in their baccalaureate programs, in their yearbooks and so on with their child's picture. And I always say, yeah. You know, I always give them.
Well, we have about 1 more minute left, so maybe we could end the show with that.
Actually, is that all I got, one?
That's all we got, 1 more minute.
Oh, well then, you know what? I want to shift gears.
Okay.
Okay? I want to read this other one instead.
Okay.
My friend Lou.
Take us home with this one.
My friend Lou. Lou Baccaria came into Phoenixville quietly one day. Immediately, his organizing skills came into play. His face became a familiar one on Channel 4. The voice on the radio was recognized even more. Working and joining organizations truly he's one of a kind. Always doing things for Phoenixville. This fills his mind. His mind is so active, keeping everything in its place. Busy with meetings and schedules, he should slow down a pace. His personality and work skills are an asset to one and all. Truly a family man with pride in his children. Somebody messed me up. Takes care of his mother, I recall. Lou is a man that everyone can put in their trust. Phoenixville's happy that he is now one of us. God bless you, Lou.
I feel very privileged. Thank you very much. What a surprise. I just didn't know anything about that
That's
one.
why I had to wait till the last minute to give it to you.
I'm very honored that you did that. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome, Lou.
It's been great having you on the show, and I hope you had as much fun as we have had having you on the show. And now the whole community knows a whole lot about you and the different sides of you.
The word is out.
And the great poetry that you read and write.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks. Well, that's about all the time we have for today on our show. My thanks again to my guest, Emma Valenteen, for coming on the show. So until we meet again on another Poking Around Phoenixville show, remember, play nice and be kind to each other. I'm Lou Baccaria, and I'll see you around town.